Hi there, everyone. It's Sunday evening, and you're watching 67 Hail Hail Live with me, Hamish, a very hoarse Hamish. John,
Course,
you may have
Hamish.
to do a lot of the talking in this video, mate, because as you can no doubt hear and probably even see in my face, it was a long night.
Well, as regular viewers of the channel will know, it takes a lot to shut me up, so you might be all right. I seen your Instagram stories, Hamish. I seen your strutting your stuff on the dance floor last night, so not surprised you're feeling a bit rough, even at 8 o'clock at night.
I know, imagine what the party would have been like. You seem in a chipper mood, though. Not that
Of
you aren't
course,
always.
no, I'm always in a chipper mood. I'm feeling pretty optimistic at the moment. I'm feeling a gradual flow towards the end of the season here, and I'm feeling pretty happy about it. We're,
I've
we're
already
going to
had
get
an
over the
absolute
line.
nightmare, John, because it's Monday, it's not Sunday, and I think I introduced it by saying it's Sunday. It's not going to be my day, is it? It's not going to be my video.
Excellent, excellent. I didn't even pick that up, so shout out to the chat for bringing that to our attention. It is Monday. It's 8 o'clock on a Monday, a bank holiday Monday. So we're all good.
Can we do a sub? Can we get like Stevie or Asim in to host this? Because I'm all over the place. Well, maybe we wouldn't get Steve in to chat about days, actually. He's not got a great track record there. Thoughts on yesterday, John? What did you make of both the game and the overall picture afterwards?
Yeah, it's two things you've got to split it, I think, because I think if you go and say, "Oh, you were delighted by yesterday," I don't think it tells the story of the game. And I was a sense of disappointment in the performance on the afternoon, and I say disappointment just because I felt it was a good opportunity. I felt like there was a sense of expectation among supporters. Just felt like the chance to really grind it into Rangers this season. But like I've long maintained, and I have that this season was never about dominating Rangers, and I don't think it was ever about being streaks ahead of them, and I don't think we are on the day. Like there's been a lot of nonsense in the aftermath about how from that side of the city, of course, about how they're actually the better team. Well, Celtic are obviously the better team, but I think when the two teams play, it's very tight. And I think I think if you look at the overall record of the derbies this season, 2 wins apiece and a draw, I think that's probably a pretty fair reflection. So there was a sense of disappointment because I thought it was an opportunity, but obviously the big picture is fantastic for us. I think a draw is a good result out of that game, and I think Ange summed that up after the match. And I think you saw from Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's reaction that he was disappointed with the draw. So I think that's what you need to take away from it ultimately. And we're still well on course. We're well on course here. So I was slightly disappointed by the performance. I think there's definitely some aspects of that team that didn't really get into what yesterday was, especially in that second half. We just lost control of it, basically, in that final 20 minutes. But again, I think the big picture does inform that, in the sense that was Rangers' last chance to win, and they threw everything at that last 20 minutes.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, nothing to lose. And they didn't get there. And essentially, we got a result that is good for our title bid, and they didn't. And that's really all there is to it.
Yeah, we're in a stronger position now than we were before the game. I mean, I was pretty certain, I think the same as you, prior to the game, that Celtic would be champions. I think we've felt that way for a while, probably since Ibrox, but even more so now. I mean, it's an absolute shoe-in. Yesterday was the only opportunity Rangers had to kind of plant some seeds of doubt in our mind, and if they had have won the game yesterday, we'd be doing a very different video right now. We'd be chatting about how big a game Hearts would be on Saturday. It obviously still is a big game, but that was their one opportunity, and as much as a point is a decent result for them coming to Celtic Park after Thursday, etc., it was a decent result for us as well, all things considered. I was having a chat in the pub, funnily enough, after the game, and you've got the kind of, I don't know, bravado or whatever you want to call it, of some Celtic fans, or Rangers are crap, Rangers are this, Rangers are that. But I think there seems to be a growing feeling amongst a lot of Celtic fans that as much as we don't like them, and by the way, they have trouble admitting that we're a good team for some daft reason. They're really struggling to do that across the city. I think you have to admit that this Rangers team is a decent side. It's not the Rangers team of a few years ago. I think at the moment in Scottish football, we've got two pretty good teams, and it probably says more about Celtic, the fact that we've been just that bit better this season, 6 points better this season, given that they've been together for so long. They've achieved, well, trophy-wise, not achieved much, but in terms of the growth of that Rangers team, the main kind of part of that team, the nucleus, has been together for 3 seasons, 4 seasons. This is a newly formed Celtic team, and we're going to win the league against what I think's a pretty decent Rangers team. We probably take more satisfaction in that as well.
Yeah, I certainly do. I'm not going to sit here and go through all their strengths because that's not what this channel is all about. But I will say, it's the strongest team at Vibrox, for a decade, over a decade probably. And you've got to give credit to Celtic and to this manager and to the players for looking like we're on our way to winning the league against a team like that who are doing well in Europe and are showing up well on that front. That's a significant achievement for Celtic, and I'm happy to talk that up if it means admitting that they're a decent team. And I think they are. And I think, as I just said, I think the derby record of Rams this season, I think kind of pretty much tells the story of how the games have gone. The heartening thing for Celtic is that I think we won I know it's easy to say this now, but I genuinely think we won the games that really mattered when the heat was really on in the title race. There was that first game at Ibrox, which was obviously important, but Celtic hadn't even completed the transfer window at that point. I mean, we've said it on multiple occasions, but the team we fielded at Ibrox that day is completely different to the one that we've got now. And then we won the game in February. That was a huge game. Going into that game, Rangers and the Rangers supporters going into that game at Celtic Park in February were still confident they were going to win the league. They were still very confident that they were going to get the job done. And Celtic annihilated them that night in that first half. It was a special derby performance. It's the best half either team has played in the derby all season. And again, the biggest game of our season was when we went to Ibrox and beat them.
That was the one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's the real moment you look at when it was at a crossroads.
Yeah, absolutely. And even that was another game that they felt if they won, they could still have a good chance of going on to win the league.
They'd be level now.
We shut them up. And so you've got to give credit to the way that this Celtic team have dug the big results in the derbies out of the bag this season. Obviously, the black mark is the semi-final. We've been over that. And again, that was another bonus for Celtic this season. Everyone at the start of the season, Celtic supporters, Rangers supporters were saying this is the most important league in years because of the implication it has in terms of Champions League, etc. And Celtic have managed to build a team, and just managed to build a team in the short period of time he's been here that not only competes with Rangers, but can legitimately say they are the best team in Scotland. And they are the best team in Scotland. There's no doubt about it.
A lot of deflection going on across the city, isn't there? This handing out trophies for certain things, people staring people down, and teams apparently having the better of other teams. I think, if you look at the last three derbies, that's probably the obvious thing to do because they've all been over the last month. I think you would argue the fair result in all three of them. I think we were the much better team at Ibrox, deserved to win that game probably by more than a goal. I think equally at Hampden, they should have won that game probably in 90 minutes, given the way the game went. And I think yesterday a draw was probably the fair result. This kind of narrative that I've seen forming a bit, that Rangers have our number in these fixtures and that Rangers were the dominant team yesterday. I don't know what match people were watching. I think, sure, Rangers had probably two really, really good chances late on or in the last kind of 20 minutes to win that game, and that probably clouds people's minds because it's, the recency bias. But Celtic had probably 3-4 really clear-cut opportunities in addition to the goal. Maida misses two that he should have scored both, let's be honest. The one he blazes over the bar and the header where he just needs to be braver. The one I forgot about on the reaction yesterday was the Jota header right after the goal, which he has Kyogo, I think, next to him. He could chest it down, he can play it to Kyogo. That has to be a goal as well. Celtic could have been 3-0 up at that stage and the Rangers fight back wouldn't have mattered. So I'm going a long way around way of saying that this Celtic team is nowhere near as bad in these fixtures as has been made out by people across the city. And I think it's just, is it just kind of trying to cloud the judgment of people and take away from the fact that they've failed in their big target this season? There is a lot of distraction and deflection going on, isn't there?
Mate, it's a coping mechanism. It's like as simple as that. It's like they've had a tough season. Celtic have clawed back what was a monumental gap. The narrative going into the season, and everyone knows it, and they can rewrite history all they want, was that Celtic are dodging a season of domination from Rangers. There was high-profile pundits talking about Celtic finishing third. was a lot of people about saying that Ange might not last till Christmas or October, whatever you want to put it. And it's silly to suggest that what Celtic have done since then is, nothing short of monumental. And it is. I genuinely believe it is. It's been a special season. And I think what people who were disappointed with the performance yesterday need to remember, and I accept that there was problems with the performance, but I think what they need to remember is that Ange has never said that Celtic had a finished product at the moment. In fact, he's expressly said the opposite on multiple occasions, as recently as the last couple of months. He wants to take Celtic to another level. And what we need to see this summer is whether the club and Ange and the players are capable of doing that. And there's issues to address, and we'll talk about all that when Celtic get over the line, because I think there's also a kind of we don't want to talk ourselves into a corner here in terms of thinking too much about the future when there's so much to enjoy right now. Exactly. I think we should savor what this month is. I think we should savor Celtic getting over the line eventually, which I think they will do, obviously. And just enjoy what the journey this season has been and what this group of players have achieved, because they deserve the recognition for what they've done this season, regardless of what they'll contribute to Celtic in the future. They deserve the recognition of bringing Celtic to this point and beating a Rangers team that Rangers fans still feel proud of, regardless of what's happened this season. So, yeah, definitely.
We shouldn't be worried about the future at all. I think we should be really, really optimistic about the future. I think, again, there's parts of the game yesterday and, parts of this season, especially in Europe, Europe's probably the main one, that Bodo Glimt tie, I think, where you would look at parts of that Celtic team and the performances and think those are clear areas we need to improve next season. But I have complete faith in Ange, doing that and improving the team, whether that be in player acquisitions in the summer, moving on players who maybe aren't good enough, and just generally changing the kind of mindset. I think that's one of the things he's done at the club. He's changed the mindset from what he inherited when he came to the club in the summer to where we're at now, being Scotland's, best team again. And I think if he can do that in Europe and keep us as Scotland's, big team, there's great things to look forward to. And as I say, full belief in Ange to do that. We are now 4 points away from clinching the league. I'll put the league table on screen. So it's a maximum of 4 points. Rangers have 80 points, as you can see. They can only get on to 89. That's the maximum they can get this season. We can be in 89 at 2:00 on Saturday if we beat Hearts at Celtic Park. And while 90 is the number we need to get to actually be crowned champions before the final week, that is, 89 is basically job done, John, when you look at that goal difference. I mean, 19 goals isn't getting turned over in 3 games for each team. So it's one win away. We did get a comment in there from Mazar, who was actually saying that the one slight disappointment yesterday was that it's now not going to be clinched at Celtic Park. It looks like it's going to be over in the East Coast at Tannadice.
Yeah, well, there's been a fantastic title win at Tannadice before. I think that's good for the away support there. They've enjoyed as much of this season at Celtic than anyone. So I wouldn't begrudge them that opportunity to live at large on Tayside, but. Again, I get it doesn't really matter who we clinch it against. I think people will just be delighted when we get there. I think there'll be another expectant atmosphere against Hearts on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think a win that day, people will feel like they've won the league, regardless of whether it's official or not. Do you remember that game? Was it Rodgers' first season or one of the Rodgers seasons? I think when we won a game against Hearts, and I don't think it was official.
Dyla's second season. Because we beat them, I think, 4-1. And then, because remember the following week we had the weird Aberdeen home game where we basically had to lose 5-0 not to win the league. And I think we ended up doing it in typical Dyla fashion and going 3-0 up after 20 minutes and ended up only winning at 3-2. And it was the biggest anti-climax ever. That's probably a point to raise now, because we're still in a great position. We know that. We're going to win the league. How important is it how we win the league now? Because, we want to send ourselves into the summer. It's going to be a successful season, whatever happens, even if we limp over the line against Motherwell, which obviously don't happen, I hope happen at all. But how important is it that we win it in style with a couple of really good victories against Hearts and Dundee United?
It's as important as any week we play with style, I think, Hamish. Remember the St Johnstone game not that long ago. That was a thrilling day to be a supporter of Celtic. There'll be an excited and buoyant atmosphere, regardless of how we win the title. But if we do it in style, I think it only adds to that. And Ange will be telling the players, like, Ange has been said that already. He doesn't want to. It's not about getting over the line; it's about running through it or something. He said, and prior to the Rangers game, and we didn't manage to quite do that in the derby. But as everyone's been saying, Rangers didn't stop us yesterday; they only delayed us. And I think that it is important to put for Celtic the Celtic team to entertain the supporters, because watching Celtic win football games and playing nice football is one of the biggest joys in the world. So it is important, but big picture again is just about lifting the trophy, isn't it? I mean, it's about lifting the trophy. It's about having a trophy day at Celtic Park, and it's about everyone being teary-eyed when Ange takes the mic for whatever he says over the PA system. Because I guarantee that that'll be a big moment for the support. And I think the message of Ange that day will be that just like Neil Lennon was, that this is just the start of something. And I think everyone will be stressing that at Celtic over the next couple of months. And it's up on them to deliver. I mean, again, I know we don't want to look too far into the future, and I'm not sure if you were going to bring this up, but the significant news today is that Russian teams have been banned from the Champions League next season, and the Scottish Premiership winners will go directly into the group stages of the Champions League with no qualifiers, none of that. And it would be the first time since 2008 that Celtic haven't played a European qualifier in the summer, which is significant. I hate the summer qualifiers. I absolutely detest them.
Oh, you don't. You love them. You love the drama.
I hate it. And I always think we're unprepared. And I always think we're never convincing in them. Even when we do make to a group stage, it's always the most nervy and crazy ride possible, with players out of position and new players coming into the club. And I think that sets us up really well if we can win this league, go directly into a group stage of the UEFA Champions League. Think about what we've got to look forward to over the summer. I mean, I would be so excited about Celtic going back into that Champions League. Everyone knows that Celtic fans appreciate European football, and everyone knows we savour that Champions League anthem. It would be massive. It would be big time. It'd be box office. And I think it'd be good for the people who follow our channel who are just Ange fans. I know we've got a lot of just Ange fans on this channel, Australians. Like, how proud would it be for them to see an Australian manager go into the Champions League too? So I can't get that thought out of my head. It's just about what's ahead. I'm really excited about what's ahead. And yeah, I hope that everyone feels like that at the end of the season, regardless of how we do the title, whether it's winning the next 3 games 3-0 or winning 2 of them 1-0 and drawing another. It's about what's ahead.
Yeah, I hear you totally. All that matters is that we win the league. But I need to pose a hypothetical question that could become very real in a few days' time. So we beat Hearts on Saturday. We're 9 clear. Rangers play Dundee United the following day. You know it's coming here. You can either win it by Rangers dropping points, or you can go against everything you stand for and hope that they get 3 points so that we can win it ourselves. What are you going for? And I want everyone else's replies as well. What are you going for? Are you going to cheer Rangers on Sunday if it means that we can win the league ourselves?
Mate, I'm not shy enough to admit that I'm so bitter that I would not want Rangers to win in any scenario. That's how I feel about it.
Would that be an anticlimax winning that way? No. Now, we'd do a live stream, wouldn't we? We'd do a live stream right away.
Yeah, it would be exciting. As I say, it's exciting to acknowledge what the team have managed to achieve this season. It feels like we're already halfway in that mode, if we're honest. Like, I don't want to take anything for granted, and I know the team have to work hard in these upcoming matches, but everyone feels like it's so close that we're already taking pride in it. And like, I was doing the Optus article yesterday, and my message in that was like, that's what I feel about this team, and Ange is like, that's the word that sums up, it's pride. Because, and I know Ange said this at the PFA Awards last night, he was kind of asked about his critics at the start of the season. And for Ange, it's not about going back and revisiting that criticism. Like, he's not going to be digging up Hugh Keevins in a press conference over the next 2 months. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to be going back and, slaughtering Alan Brazil and all that. That's not what Ange is all about. And he's not going to get involved. But for the fans saw that all unfold. And they will remember, and I will remember, you will remember, everyone will remember. And for us, I think there is a real sense of satisfaction in that. And because we saw what they were saying about Ange, we saw what they were saying about Celtic. The predictions were mental, and we had confidence and hope at the time, and we pushed back against that. But having the evidence of a title win in your back pocket when you're doing that is something else entirely. So I'm getting off tangent here, but what I'm saying is that regardless of how we do it, and again, I know you asked that question, regardless of how they do it, whether it's, at Tannadice, whether it's on Sunday, what our Rangers are up to at Ibrox, like, it doesn't matter. It's about taking pride in this team and using that pride and being excited about the future of Celtic.
Yeah, I've just thought of a completely off-the-cuff question that may be terrible, and we'll get everyone else involved in the comments again. You speak about, the Celtic support having that belief, and I think Ange has spoken about the Leverkusen home game as being a kind of big moment for the team, a sink or swim moment. I've spoken about it in the channel as well, I think, in a video earlier in the week. Is there a game or a moment you can put your finger on when you were just completely confident that Ange was going to deliver for Celtic? Was it really early?
I'm on the Celtic forum, the huddle board, and I started a thread on July or something saying I'm all in on Ange. I just felt like I don't want to come across as saying, oh, I predicted it and all that, because it was probably more out of hope than anything. As I've said on the channel before, I'm not a football genius. I'm not a guru. I can't see these things in advance, but I did have a real sense of hope, and it was early on, even early on. Like, I know,
was it in that kind of run of 5 home games that we had where we were just amazed? Because that was probably it for me. It was probably the Hearts home game was the one when we in the League Cup when we obliterated them in the first half. That was when I think I said it on the reaction. We were like playing football that was even better than Brendan Rodgers' team at their peak.
We had that game at Jablonec away in the qualifying. That was a kind of good signifier as well.
Yeah,
there was lots of little moments. And it was a tough period, but even when we were going through that period of 5 defeats and 8 or whatever it was in September, I mean, it's not a hidden game and everyone knows it, but that trip to Pittodrie and beating Aberdeen after we got horsed off Leverkusen was just massive, and it really was. And I know that's been well said by now. I'm not revealing it. I'm not providing any great insight into that. But the captain Callum McGregor was speaking about that again last week, like. That was huge for that team to go away to Pittodrie and win like that. I think they felt. I think that gave them belief especially after that Leverkusen game, because that was a bruising defeat. I know we didn't play horribly on the night against Leverkusen, but that was still a bruising defeat, and there was all sorts of questions being asked at that point.
But even after that game, John, the players are walking around, and Celtic fans stayed that night after a 4-0 home win and clapped the players off, and I remember that.
This is the point I've made all along. I mean, there's been a lot of chat about what belief Celtic fans did have in Ange, but they did from the very start. Even in his very first home game, there was people, applauding him onto the sidelines when he was doing his interviews and stuff.
Yeah, I was there,
and I just feel like there's been a unity there all season, and I think winning football games has helped. I think having players in the team like Callum McGregor has helped, because although last season was horrible and Callum McGregor was part of that in the sense he was in the team, every Celtic fan I know associates Callum McGregor with immense success at Celtic. Not as the captain, but as a midfielder in the Brendan Rodgers era, and then in that first season under Neil Lennon. Like, they associate McGregor with just constantly being in the team and almost constantly winning. And so I think having him as a captain, even going into the season, although he was there last season, you could put your belief into Callum McGregor that he would have that mentality to try and win it again. And I think the way Callum really talked up the manager really early on, and I'm talking like June, July, Callum McGregor was saying the manager's great, training's great, everything's great, we're buying into it. I think that really helped. And I think the communication coming out of Celtic this season has been so important in building this unity with the fans. I know it's about going to the games, and I know it's about seeing the teams performing. And I'm not trying to dilute that, and I'm not trying to diminish that. But just the communication coming from the players and from the manager especially, I think he's built a real rapport with Celtic fans. I think he's a really easy man to get behind. And I think that communication and that kind of the power of language, as Ange puts it, has been so important to this Celtic project as much as anything else. It's been coming together. And I think, as you say, it's important because on nights like that Leverkusen night, when the supporters are still applauding the team after the game, it's just massive, because it gave them the belief to go to Pittodrie And if you remember, the fans at Pittodrie for that game were magnificent. I mean, that was magnificent. The fans at Livingston in 2022, magnificent. Just pre-match, just absolutely rapturous response to the team coming onto the pitch. The fans after the semi-final against Rangers when we lost, again, there was a mutual appreciation. And I think having the fans there to back the team up and what they want to do this season, even in hard moments, has been huge for the way the season has gone. And I think supporters can take credit for that as well.
And I don't know if you agree with this, I feel like a large part of why the support has been so fully behind Ange right from the start is probably because he was written off. And I think this is something Ange has actually touched on himself. If we'd have got someone in, dare I say it, a certain Englishman who's now managing Newcastle, maybe a more proven, well-known name in this part of the world, I don't think we would have had that same buy-in to the same extent as we have under Ange. I think everyone's got so kind of far behind Ange for all the reasons you've listed, but also because we've kind of felt like he was down in the trenches with us as well, and he was kind of fighting our corner. Celtic were trying to prove themselves and get back to where we should be after a terrible season. And at the kind of helm of the club, we had a guy who was doing the exact same and trying to prove himself. Certainly this side of the world, I've felt that right from the start, that Ange being written off by so many. And yeah, there were some Celtic fans when his name was first mentioned. I think with the whole Howe disappointment, there was certainly a lot of scepticism. But I think when that subsided, since that moment, the Celtic support have just been fully behind him like I've never seen it. And I think a lot of that just comes from the fact that he was written off so heavily, and we've kind of felt like this is our guy and we're going to back him the whole way. And I think it's interesting to look forward and see how that's going to work its way out now, because he's no longer going to be a guy proving himself, really. He's going to be well known now. Maybe in Europe you could argue he still is. Were you looking up something there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I was looking distracted there, but it's for a very, very good reason, because there's a bit of breaking news at Celtic. I'm going to read this out. Celtic Football Club is pleased to announce the appointment of Mark Lawwell as head of first team scouting and recruitment. Mark joins Celtic from his position as head of City Football Group scouting and recruitment within City Football Group's global structure, having spent the last 10 years there. Mark, who will join the club in readiness for the summer transfer window, previously worked closely with Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou on scouting and recruitment through Ange's time as manager of Yokohama F. Marinos. Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou said, "I was very keen for Mark to join the club, and clearly I am delighted he's accepted this important role and that we've been able to bring him to Celtic. Mark is someone who I worked closely with throughout my 4 years at Marinos, through which time we developed great trust and an excellent working relationship. He knows the way I like to work, the way my teams play, and a particular player profile which this requires." So obviously, let's not chat about this too much and give too many wild hot takes in the beginning, Hamish, but there is a number of issues here, not least that Mark Lawwell is Peter Lawwell's son, the former Celtic chief executive, which will raise all sorts of issues for a section of the Celtic support. There's a lot to get into there. That's going to be something that we need to dig into over time. What's your initial thoughts, Hamish?
Well, that's the first thing that springs out is Law. The other thing is that Peter Law was at the recent B team game I was at. I thought that was interesting. Ange was obviously at that game as well. I don't know if Law Jr. was there as well. Was it Mark? Sorry, Mark Law.
Mark Lawwell, yeah.
Yeah. As you say, he obviously has a relationship with Ange. Ange, clearly, I think Ange sounds like he's quite pleased with that as someone he knows well, and I think as much as, that I think there will be a fair bit of scepticism towards the appointment of Law back at Celtic. I think if it's something that Ange feels is going to, help Celtic's recruitment, which, it clearly will, I think, and it's someone Ange trusts, then I think that's good. It's more evidence of Celtic getting a team together for Ange. We've appointed a few people, and I think you actually asked about it a couple of weeks ago, didn't you? About staff appointments, and he obviously didn't give much away at all. I don't know that again. This might age terribly. My kind of overriding thing would be that's a decent move if it's something Ange is a fan of.
I understand you maybe don't want to rush into what our thoughts are. It will take time.
It's sorted tomorrow's video, by the way. That's one thing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
good.
You know, I think initially I can understand why people will be automatically in uproar that it's a Lawwell appointment and all that, but I think there has been a recognition from the club that Ange's links with the City Football Group and the Lawwell links with the City Football Group did play a part in bringing Ange to the club in the first place. So there is that. I think the fact that we're having someone who will be a point man on transfers and recruitment this summer is huge, because if you remember back to, regardless of who it is, because if you remember back to last season, there was a lot of confusion about who was actually calling, not calling the shots, because Ange does have a say in who comes to the club, but who was handling negotiations and who was getting involved in negotiations. I think what you can at least say about Mark Lawwell is that he has worked for the City Football Group for a number of years. He's not been appointed into the job out of sheer nepotism because of who he is, when he has worked for one of the, a principal footballing group in world football. So I think you can say that he's at least experienced in the role. So we'll just need to see how it plays out. I'm not going to, I don't know whether it'll be a success, as I've said, but the proof will be in what Celtic do this summer, and the proof will be in the kind of players that we can bring to the club over the next few months. So we'll just need to wait and see in it.
So that's obviously a new job title, isn't it? Head of First Team Scouting and Recruitment. Is that what, Messrs Congerton and that other guy Hammond were doing?
I believe it'll be essentially the same role.
Maybe more encompassing type thing.
Yeah. It might be. I think, as you kind of says in the statement, I'd imagine that you'll be working pretty closely with Ange here. It's an interesting one. It's interesting breaking news to come along when we're in the middle of a live stream. But if they bring good players to the club and the players play well under Ange, that's all that matters for me.
Right, we'll do, I think, a proper dive into Mark Lawwell, whose name I will have mastered this time tomorrow, I promise. I'll maybe try and speak to someone about him as well. Now that I've promised that, I'll need to deliver tomorrow. It's going to be a busy day, but it's good to get our teeth into a bit of news. Interesting. Right, we'll hold fire on any other things to say before we find out more. Do you want to look into things we can learn from yesterday's game? Is there anything you want to go off your chest? I've got a few wee things. Midfield maybe a little bit light for these fixtures at times, certainly the last couple of games. I did feel that as much as we've been joking about him being an apparent hard man staring at people after the game, I did feel that we kind of let Lundstrom away with it a little bit again yesterday. I do feel that sometimes that Celtic midfield, certainly the last couple of games, has lacked a little bit of muscle there. I think in the summer, if you're asking me what I would like to see done, I think I'd probably like a bit more of a presence, a kind of strong defensive midfielder who I don't want to just say like a Wanyama or someone like that, but someone even like a Kayal or someone like that who, could come in and play in that role in games and could allow us to move Callum McGregor one up. I think that's something that could be pretty useful in Europe as well. I just feel that as much as Ange always wants to attack these games, sometimes having, a Rogic and Hatate or a Hatate and O'Reilly as it was yesterday hasn't really worked in the last couple of games. I get also that Hatate's quite tired, and I think we'll see a totally different Hatate, at the start of next season. But that's kind of opened up a little bit of a thought for me.
Yeah, I can see why you're thinking that. For me, it was less about that. Even it was just more not doing what we would usually do under Ange against a lesser team. Like when we play a better level of opponent, we're just not as fluent as playing out of our own half. And it does need addressed. Maybe we need more people that are more comfortable on the ball in those positions. It's a difficult one. Like even in the first 10, 15 minutes, like even Callum McGregor was pretty careless with the ball. I just thought there was a carelessness with the football yesterday. I didn't think we were looking after it enough. And I know Ange always wants to play forward, and sometimes that results in a more direct ball forward than perhaps we'd have liked. And we didn't get a hold of that again. Apart from like the first 5 or 10 minutes that Giakoumakis was on the pitch, and until he got booked, really. I
thought he was amazing when he came on for the first 5-10 minutes.
He was kind of helping make the ball stick and
he was brilliant.
Opposition half. So there was concerns in the midfield area. I think it's undeniable. I don't think anyone who watched that game of football and thought that the Celtic midfield with just a perfect performance. They would certainly be wrong in that regard. So it is something we need to address. I don't know if it's about bringing in new personnel. I don't know whether it's just about betting on Hatate being fresher than new season or whether it's about that. But it's something that the club need to address. I mean, the reports indicate that the priorities for Celtic in the transfer window, I think this came from the Athletic, was a left back, was a ball playing centre half, which would address the issue that I'm talking about in terms of being more comfortable and playing out from the back and driving into midfield. I mean, there was that Starfelt-Maisie run yesterday that you remember, but I almost think we need more bravery from our centre half sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bit too safe, and it's not even too safe because actually by playing too safe, it becomes a riskier prospect because we gradually get throttled into areas that we're not comfortable with, and then the ball goes between the defence and the goalkeeper in ways that sees half the stadium tearing their hair out. So that is an issue going forward. And then the other position that I think the club want to address is at right wing. Obviously, we need to see how the Jota and the CCV kind of situations pan out. But I would be surprised if Celtic went looking for a midfielder as well. But it's difficult because you're looking at the person that would probably need to say move some people on. We've got Ismaila Soro in the background still kind of training with the team, but nowhere. James McCarthy's not really done a lot this season. We've got Ideguchi as well, who Ange said in a press conference last week he feels he can still play a strong role at Celtic. Obviously hasn't happened this season. Maybe Ange is thinking he's another one for next season. And then you've got Nir Bitton as well. But we probably do need a higher quality. If we're thinking about going into these Champions League group stages, you want a higher quality midfielder in there available to kind of rotate between these options.
I think he's going to be completely ruthless as well, Ange. I don't get the impression he's the kind of guy who will just keep guys around, because they've done a job for him in the past. I think if he thinks Celtic can upgrade in a position, I think he'll be completely ruthless. And it may be tough on guys like Bitton, but can you do better than Nir Bitton? Quite possibly.
I think that's why Ange will be and I'm not trying to dodge the question. I think that's why Ange will be parking all that chat until after the end of the season, because I do think the manager, and I do think fans should as well, should recognise what's been achieved this season by this group of players, and then we can look ahead into who needs to go and who needs not to. But I do agree there's significant upgrades needed in the team to bring this team to the next level that everyone wants Celtic to be that, and hopefully we do see that over the next month. And hopefully Mr. Mark Lawwell is a significant contributor to that.
Yeah, but again, we're not talking about maintaining Celtic like we may have in the past. We may have thought, just keep things going. We're doing all right. We've won the league by how many points this season. Andrew's going to want us to make an impression in Europe. In fact, I think he was quoted last night as saying something along the lines of wanting people to know Celtic for what he does in Europe. So, and obviously we've spoken to numerous former players of Ange, and they all seem to think that Europe is where he will look to make his mark with Celtic. I think I'd love to actually ask Ange about that. Maybe I will at some stage. I think that's where he'll see Celtic really making his name as a manager here, and I think he'll be ruthless, as I say. So exciting times ahead. Awards last night. While I was enjoying myself, there were various awards getting dished out. You were on top of the situation. Do you want to just let us know kind of what went down?
Yeah, so there was 2 award events last night. There was the PFA Scotland Awards and there was the Celtic Awards themselves.
What is that about? Why were they in the same night?
I don't know. It's strange. There may be limited spaces at the Hiltons in the town because the Writers' Award is next week as well. It's next Sunday. So there'll be more awards to come. At the PFA Scotland event, Celtic pretty much dominated. Tom Rogic won goal of the season for his goal against Dundee United at Tannadice. Callum McGregor won Player of the Year. Lyle Abada won Young Player of the Year. Jacinta and the women's team won the Women's Young Player of the Year. And Ange Postecoglou won the Manager of the Year. So utter domination there. At the Celtic event, it's obviously all Celtic winners. Stephen Welsh won the Celtic Academy Player of the Year, I believe, if I recall correctly. The late, great Wim Jansen won a Special Achievement Award, and it was picked up by his family. I think there's interviews on Celtic social media and stuff if you want to go and check out that kind of thing. That was good. Kyogo won the top goal scorer award. He's got 17 at the moment. I think it's only really Abada that can overtake him in the last few games, but he gets the trophy.
Giacomakis must be in there, no?
I think Giacomakis got 13 or something, 13 or 14.
Right,
I know
okay.
he could take over, but there's only 3 games left now.
Yeah.
Kyogo also won the goal of the season, the Celtic goal of the season award for his second goal against Hibernian in the League Cup final. Callum McGregor won the Players Player of the Year voted on by the players, and he won the Player of the Year voted on by the fans. Lyle Abada won the Young Player of the Year voted on by the fans. So significant crossover between 2 events. In my opinion, the award's almost unanimously deserved. I think Callum McGregor was my pick for Player of the Year. And I think Lyle Abada, 20 years old, he's got significant potential. His contribution this season has been massive, so well deserved there too. And Ange, obviously, for me, Manager of the Year for what he's managed to do at Celtic.
I'm stunned about that. I'm stunned you think Ange is the best manager. What about Celtic Fan Media Personnel of the Year? Who got
that? We'll give that to Ewan. We'll give it to Ewan, who is no longer with 67 here, who has moved on to a new job. I know a lot of people have been asking in the comments, and I've been trying to reply to them and say Ewan's not on the channel anymore because he's moved on to a new job. We didn't punt him. He's moved on.
People looking for drama. They want to know there was a massive falling out. There was. No, we love Ewan.
No falling out. Ewan is one of the nicest guys going, and he just moved into a new area in his work life. And, to be fair to him, reclaiming Celtic as a hobby and a passion first and foremost. So fair play to him.
Yeah. I think he's been enjoying himself watching games and not having to chat about them afterwards. Anything else happening? What have we got? A few days leading into the big one. It's Saturday, so we've not got long to wait. Someone pointed out earlier as well that Tannadice afterwards will be the following midweek. So, this is going to be wrapped up very, very soon now, and we've got all that to look forward to.
It's going to be an exciting couple of weeks, Hamish. This is why I'm chipper, as he said at the start of the show. Like, I'm just feeling pretty nice and happy about the direction of Celtic, and I think we've got a lot of good big moments to look forward to, a lot of reflection to do, and a lot of pride to take in Celtic, the team, the manager, the club going forward.
And you're off to watch the snooker now?
Well, it might be over at this point. Someone in the chat might tell me, but Ronnie O'Sullivan was racing away with it the last time I looked.
But he was fighting back, wasn't he? Donald's boy.
Judd Trump was fighting back, but I think he kind of lost his way again. I've been enjoying the snooker this year. I don't watch the snooker, throughout the year a lot, but I always try to check in on the World Championships. I find it the most relaxing thing in the world, watching the snooker, and I have been enjoying this. I was disappointed that John Higgins and Mark Williams didn't make it into the final.
Well, it's 17-13 now to O'Sullivan, and it's first 18, isn't it? So that seems fantastic. Like it's just as over as the Scottish Premiership title race, I think, John. We'll say goodbye. Thanks for tuning in and contributing to this video. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, as we say, with the new video. I was about to say the new week begins. The new week began today, because today is Monday. Tomorrow will be Tuesday. We'll speak to you then.